Kiriko Kamori is one of Overwatch 2's newest heroes, the Protector of Kanezaka. She is a 23-year-old support character with 200 HP, and in this video we're going to give you a guide on how to play Kiriko effectively in the game. Now, Kiriko is more of an aggressive support kind of healer, so you're going to be staying mobile and weaving through your team as needed as much as possible. You're never really going to be standing still. You're going to be doing healing and swapping between healing and damage depending on what your team needs at that current moment. Because your kunais are so strong when you get headshots, you're actually able to punish the lower HP enemies on the other side while your team still has full HP. So you can, swap between throwing those kunais, getting your enemies low in HP, while you then switch to healing your team and aggressively pushing the enemy team backwards. Now, I personally believe that a team that sticks together, so like a composition of heroes that all stay near the one area where you can kind of reach them as Kiriko, is probably for the most value in terms of what you can do with your kit, because 3 of your special abilities can be used on more than one player. That is your healing, your protective Suzu, as well as your ultimate attack, the Kitsune Rush. So in general, you should be around at least 2 or 3 more of your teammates at all times to be effective. Alternatively, you can sometimes push up with one of your flankers and go with like a tracer or someone, go push to the enemy sides and try pick off a few enemies before they notice you're there, and then use your teleport to get back to your team so that you can help them keep pushing from that angle. I think Kiriko's biggest strength is her ability to help her team push and advance through further into those like pushing maps where you have to move from one point to the other point. And this is mainly due to some of her abilities. Talking about her abilities, let's go into detail just about each of her abilities and how we can best use those. So as you can see on screen right now, this is her full kit. As a support hero, she obviously heals over time just naturally. She also has a wall climb ability. Wall climbing is very fantastic. It allows you to get out of combat or, get away from enemies who are pursuing you, because as a healer, enemies will always be coming after you. And I find climbing up walls, using your teleport, these things make it incredibly hard for an enemy to hunt you down and can allow you to either distract enemies or survive a bit longer yourself. Her first attack is a healing Ofuda. Now, this is a healing spell. Now, this is normally like homing missile targeted to wherever you're aiming at. So if you're aiming at an ally, these things will go to the color yellow and they will directly target the person or ally that you're aiming at. Obviously, these have to travel a bit of a distance. So the further you are, the longer they are going to take until they heal the target. And if you're not aiming at somebody or they're too far out of reach, they will go blue in color. That means you're not healing anybody with them. You're also able to heal a group of your friends at once by moving between them. Like if you aim from like one guy to the left guy, you'll actually share some of the talismans with the first guy, some with the second guy, some with the third guy, and heal a group of people quite easily. So you can actually split your healing across the whole team. This is another reason why having your team together is really good, so you don't overheal just one character. You can heal multiple at the same time. Your second attack, or your right click if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, is a kunai throw. Now this is a single direct throw into wherever you're aiming. If you hit the enemy in the body, you will do 40 damage, which isn't a lot, but if you hit the enemy in the head, you do 120 damage. So that's 3 times the damage for headshots, which is really good. The amount of times you can pick off like those low-level, low HP enemies on the other side with just 2 kunai hits, if they're standing still, is amazing, especially since you can throw a couple kunai in quick succession, but be careful, there is like a sort of reload to it at some point. So you're not generally going to be swapping between healing and kunai very quickly, so it's not advised to really swap all the time. Really pick one, stay with it for a few seconds, then swap to the other. But if your aim is good and your targets are slow, the kunais are amazing to pick off those low HP enemies that are trying to push you, especially some of them that get straight up in your face thinking you're just a healer, and then you surprise them with a kunai to the face and they die. Your first ability is Swift Step. Now, I prefer using this defensively rather than aggressively, because teleporting backwards is a whole lot easier to do when you're in combat. Like you run into combat, you get into trouble there, you start climbing some walls, you're assisting your flankers or your tank far up in the line, but then things start to go bad. Maybe the tank goes down, enemies surprise you, you get ambushed, you need to go backwards. So have a Swift Step available to teleport to a member of your team who is further back or behind a wall or somewhere, so that you can get to safety so that you don't die, because you dying allows your team to not have a healer for, the next like 30 seconds, which is kind of detrimental to most of the game modes. So don't make the mistake of teleporting to like a lone flanker who's low HP and you're thinking, I'm going to save him. You teleport to him, he dies, and now you're stuck there. No teleport, you throw your Suzu, and you only have immunity for 1 second. and you're gonna die short after that. So you basically sacrifice the DPS or the damage as well as yourself. So make sure you don't teleport forwards, rather teleport backwards. It's much better that way to stay alive. Her second ability is Protective Suzu. Now, this is like a throwable projectile that explodes on the ground, hits a 5-meter radius, I believe. Now, this actually gives your allies a 50 healing, so it heals everybody that gets hit by it with 50 healing, including yourself. Now, this one, it does two things. It's a cleanse, right? It's also the heal, but it also makes enemies invulnerable to damage you for about a second. So for that 1 second that spell or that thing is active, enemies cannot damage you. So it really depends on the composition of the enemy team that's up against you. If they have characters who have debuffs, like, you know, Ana, for example, who can throw down the grenade and make anti-healing for everybody, put characters to sleep, or the knockdown from Reinhardt, you can use Protective Suzu to cleanse that effect, get rid of it, remove it, so that you can go ahead and keep healing your friends or wake them up or get them off of the ground when they're knocked down. It's also used as a self-save. If you're about to die or something's about to hit you, or there's a big, you know, ult that's going to go off at that moment and you're like, oh, you're going to die, right? Like, for example, D.Va exploding. If you manage to use Protective Suzu just as that explosion or something happens, you will be immune to the damage that is done. So this is really related to the timing of everything happening around you, so you need to be super aware of what your enemies are doing and where your allies are so that you can protect them for this 1 second as much as possible, because there is a bit of a cooldown on Protective Suzu, so you're not going to be using this ability a lot, but when you do, make sure it's used in a way to save somebody who would have otherwise died so that you can heal them directly afterwards. Kiriko's ultimate attack is what's going to get her the win, or your team the win, because it is so overpowered. It's so cool. The ultimate attack is called the Kitsune Rush. It basically creates a little area, like a big rectangle from where you're standing onwards to in front of you. As you can see here on the screen, the size. Now, in this area, your allies and you will have 50% movement speed, so you're a lot harder to shoot. You'll have 50% reload speed, so you can reload a lot quicker and shoot off a lot quicker. Your attack speed is increased by 25%. And you're going to have a 3 times cooldown reduction time. So that means your cooldowns are going to be very, very quick. Now, this is different for different heroes and different abilities, just to make it not too overpowered. But in general, when Kitsune Rush is on the ground, you're going to be pushing the enemy team backwards and getting kills like there's no tomorrow. So make sure your whole team is stacked and alive and around you, and make sure you use this attack when the enemy's team is stacked. So right before a 5-on-5 team fight, if you use this Kitsune Rush, you're guaranteeing a great push for your team and probably a successive team kill, and who doesn't want that? I can confidently say that every time I use this ability, whatever point we're pushing or whatever robot we're trying to get to the next point, it always guarantees that my team stays alive and I stay pushing on the objective, which is fantastic. Defensively, it can also work, but you just got to make sure you use it before your allies die and not during them dying. So you got to really be aware of the placement of where you put the ultimate, because you don't want to put it too far back, you don't want to put it too far forward. You got to put it right in the middle between you and the enemies, so that as you're like encountering that area in the middle there, you're basically allowing yourself to push in there, kill them, and keep pushing onwards. So a good strategy for Kiriko overall is basically to stay as a team, heal and cleanse your teammates as much as you can, staying mobile, jumping, climbing walls, getting to positions where enemy like targeters or flankers can't get to you. You can also use kunais to punish enemies from far, like if they're in certain areas like they're snipers or something. Make sure you just throw a kunai or two, because, you know, any extra damage you can spare, and especially if it's a headshot and it's free and it's available right in front of you, is going to give you a huge advantage just with the enemy like retreating, or if you even get the kill, it's really great. So your whole point is to get kunai hits so that you can build up your ultimate, so you can use your ultimate so that you can get amazing pushes with the sheer force that your ultimate's going to give you. And obviously, if you have a Kiriko on the enemy team, the only way to counter her ultimate is by using yours as well. All right. So that's pretty much my guide on Kiriko. If you feel like I've left anything out, let me know in the comments down below. There's also a link to the wiki for Kiriko down in the description, so check that out for more information, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.